Greetings, everyone. This is Terry Naturally with another edition of Terry Talks Nutrition. We're here every weekend, same time, same station, bringing you lots of news on health and nutrition and how you can accomplish both. Remember, nobody's responsible for your health, but you and I am responsible for my health. So we have to work together to have better health. The doctor can't help us. Drug companies don't care if they help us. There's nobody to help us have better health. And they should not have to be. It's our choice. And sometimes I think it's hard for people to understand that it's our own choice. Because we make all the choices daily as to what we eat, how we live, the lifestyle we choose, how much exercise, how much sleep, what kind of diet are we eating, what are we doing to have better health. The right diet, the right health. A bad diet, bad health. It's very simple. And the biggest things you can do is avoid sugar, all forms of sugar, and drastically reduce your carbohydrates. There's no essential benefit for carbohydrates in our diet. We don't need 1 gram of carbohydrates. All of our nutrition can be provided by protein and essential fats. The good, healthy fats. No seed oils, no vegetable oils. And what makes seed oils even more damaging is when they're combined with carbohydrates. So we can make some big changes. And you can have a new lease on health in about 3 to 6 months. And before that, sometimes in weeks. But it depends on how damaging your body has been a subject to. So it takes a while to re-establish the health of our body. But it can be done. We make brand new cells all the time. You can have new health. But if you made bad decisions previously, that has caused untold damage, you may not be able to correct that damage. If you have destroyed your joints, eating a good diet is going to be helpful for you and reduce the inflammation and reduce the pain, but you may not be able to reestablish new joints. It's not possible. But you can have better health overall. So don't give up. And it takes time. You can't take a new lease on health, a new diet, or add supplements and expect you to turn around your life in a week or two. It doesn't happen. But I know you will be much, much healthier if you take the time with the correct changes, the right diet, and the right avoidance of those foods I mentioned, like sugar and carbohydrates. You can have a better healthy life, better quality of life, and a better long living life. So today, like always, we're talking about some very interesting topics. Our featured topic is arthritis in dogs and how to fix your swollen feet and ankles. Are you stressed at work? You have lost your stamina? You've lost your energy levels? Well, try red ginseng. And here are 2 brand new studies on dementia Alzheimer's disease, causes and prevention. And we'll talk about male infertility and solutions for back pain. And you know what? Still the number one drug in America? The drugs for lowering cholesterol. Statin drugs. Still the number one. Overall, $1 billion a year of prescribed drugs for lowering cholesterol. And you can't live without cholesterol. Cholesterol is your friend. You can't just look at a high number and say, oh, your cholesterol is too high. There are fractions that you have to take a look at. You just can't say, oh, it's over 200. We got to bring it down. It's not that easy. And you don't have to bring it down in most cases. And women should never bring it down. And they should never be on a statin drug. There's a small percentage of men, who may benefit from a statin drug. Those that are between 40 and 60 and have had already a heart attack or a stroke, they may benefit from a statin drug. But statin drugs are very, very damaging. They provide tremendous amount of side effects, bad side effects. You better have a very deep conversation with your doctor if they are plaguing you to take statin drugs. You don't need them. Then we'll talk about ultra-processed foods cause polyps in the colon. So let's talk about our very dear friends, dogs. I had a very, very bad day a few weeks ago. My beautiful Bella, an Australian Shepherd that I have had for almost 17 years. According to a human equivalency, she'd have been 99. And she was just totally exhausted. Her legs did not work anymore. She hadn't eaten in 3 weeks, not one morsel of food. She would just turn away. She was just about ready to give up. And I could no longer see her go through that. So I had to arrange a goodbye. So I had to send her over the bridge, the Rainbow Bridge. And I told her that when you go, you'll meet your brother Buddy, also an Australian Shepherd. They were brother and sisters. And he'll take you through all the tricks and all the ropes of you being across the bridge. He'll take good care of you. It was the hardest day of my life to see her go. But I think she was ready too. She never even raised her head during all the time that we prepared for her to go. So take care of your loved ones. Take care of your furry friends. They need us. So let's talk about arthritis in dogs. It's very common. Arthritis in dogs is extremely common. Osteoarthritis is the most common form of arthritis in humans and also in dogs. And also the most common source of chronic pain in dogs. And 1 in 4 dogs will be diagnosed with arthritis. My little Bella had some arthritis in her hind legs. She no longer could use her hind legs. She could not get up off the floor. But what made it more difficult is that she tore her ACLs in both hind legs about 10 years ago, chasing down deer. Those little legs could not make the turns that the deer did. And so she would tear her ACL. I had them both repaired 10 years ago, and I'm sure that they aged over time and just gave up. And she would not ever take a supplement or a drug, which I would not want to give her. But she would not even take a natural product. And if it was mixed in her food and she would smell it, she would not eat her food. So your dog may be showing the first signs of arthritis. And large breed dogs suffer from arthritis more than smaller dogs. But some of the signs you want to watch for, as if they have arthritis or not. If they are reluctant to jump on a couch or climb the stairs or jump up on the bed. So be careful about lying down. They don't lie down very easily. And they're very slow to get up. They may be stiff or perhaps limping a bit, especially in the morning. And they are not interested, or at least less interested, in running and playing. You can see the changes over time. I used to throw a frisbee for her, and she could just run and jump up in the air. She would go up, I bet, 6 feet to catch that frisbee and bring it right back and lay it down by my feet. She was so playful. She would run and play, and her Bella weighed about 38 to 40 pounds, and her brother Buddy weighed 110 pounds. But he left about 5 years ago. But when they were together, he would just lay in the field and watch her play. He said, "This is not for me." And being his size, I don't think he should have. He was very big. But if they stop running, stop playing, they're just losing their interest. It could be painful. So we need to look for help for the arthritic dog. Maybe not NSAIDs. NSAIDS, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. But the same suggestions to help people, humans, you and I, with arthritis or arthritic joints can also apply to dogs. If they're overweight, help them lose weight. And 50%, 56% of American dogs are overweight or obese. They're eating human food, ice cream and stuff. Oh, all these pop cups. She never had one. She ate all good food her entire lifetime. Well, that's what caused her to reach the age of 99 in human age. She was just going to break 17. So weight loss means less pressure on the painful joints. Help them have less pain. But NSAIDs, which might be prescribed by your vet, actually damage the gut in both people and dogs. You could pretty much talk about people and arthritis, and at the end just say, and your dog. They're exactly the same. People are prescribed NSAIDs as well, or Celebrex, or NSAIDs like ibuprofen and Celebrex, which destroy the gut, among other issues. Dogs are prescribed NSAIDs like Rimadyl, that can cause gastrointestinal problems and liver disease. Sometimes giving dogs or even people drugs only cause greater complications and more side effects. So how can we safely relieve our dog's pains? Well, first of all, the most common one that I would recommend would be curcumin. Scientific researchers compare the effects of curcumin versus NSAIDs, or all the drugs that are listed under NSAIDs, like ibuprofen, Celebrex, on the markers of inflammation in dogs that had arthritis, and the study lasted 20 days. Curcumin acted on double the number of inflammatory genetic pathways as the NSAID did. Curcumin was more effective than the drugs, was better at reducing tumor necrosis factor, TNF, an inflammatory compound associated with arthritis, than was the NSAID drugs. And as in people, standard curcumin is not very well absorbed in dogs. So when you use curcumin, because regular curcumin has to be given at such a large dose because it's very difficult to be absorbed, so you have to use a very, very high dose to get a meaningful dosage into the human or to the dog. And in one study, they were giving 12 capsules of curcumin 95%. But in the study, combining curcumin with turmeric essential oil called BCM95 increased absorption by 700% versus standard curcumin in dogs, as well as increasing by 600% curcumin's detectable level of the dog's bloodstream. But also we have another herb that I don't want to leave out of this mix. It's almost as effective as curcumin. And in the case of arthritis, I think it's more effective because it's more effective as an anti-inflammatory. They're both ideal together. Curcumin and boswellia. Boswellia is the other herb that I would definitely combine with curcumin. And it also reduces joint pain in dogs and the inflammatory process. Inflammation is causing the pain. And in a study, clinical study with dogs, in fact 29 dogs with arthritis or spinal pain were treated with boswellia extract for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And after just 2 weeks of this study, 71% of the dogs had noticeable reduction in symptoms. Less lameness, less pain, less stiffness when walking. One dog had brief, mild diarrhea and gas that was associated with boswellia extract. Otherwise, no side effects, no adverse events that were reported with the study on 29 dogs. This just goes to show you that you don't necessarily have to reach for a drug. If you're aware of curcumin and boswellia together, they can have a greater impact on your dog's health. So the best way to use curcumin and boswellia, first of all, don't wait until your dog is old and stiff. Now you have to undo all that damage before you see some results. And this is especially true with with the large dogs. Give daily, now, as soon as possible. Young dog, before damage is done. Give them a daily blend of curcumin that is mixed with turmeric oil, essential oil, to increase the absorption by 700%, and boswellia by 600%. And the dosage can be adjusted depending on the size of your dog. Now, if your dog weighs 15 pounds or less, about 500 milligrams of this combination. If your dog is a medium-sized dog, up to 60 pounds, I would double that dose. Not just 500, but maybe 500 to 1,000 milligrams. And if you have a very large dog, over 60 pounds, my buddy was 110 pounds, 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams would be very suitable for a large dog over 60 pounds. And no side effects, no adverse effects on your dog's liver or stomach or kidneys. Very, very safe. Now let's fix your legs after we have given you some ideas on how to fix the arthritis and the pain and inflammatory chronic inflammation in your dogs. Let's talk about you and how to fix your swollen feet and ankles. Get rid of those puffy ankles. First of all, I would check with a holistic physician to determine if you have a low thyroid. Hypothyroidism is one of the reasons why a lot of people have puffy face, puffy feet, puffy ankles, especially in the morning after waking up. And two of the nutrients that I would suggest, one is magnesium. Your doctor might prescribe a drug for your hypothyroidism, underactive thyroid, but also a blend of iodine, L-tyrosine, and selenium can improve the function of your thyroid. But also, too, you can use magnesium. In a clinical trial of women with PMS, 200 milligrams of magnesium daily significantly reduced fluid retention and bloating. In an animal model of arthritis, daily magnesium supplementation reduced joint swelling and inflammation by over 30%. And don't forget sea salt or Himalaya salt. Not the sodium from refined table salt or sodium from processed foods. When too much sodium is consumed, it upsets the body's mineral balance. And the body retains water to dilute it. Table salt is pure sodium chloride, while sea salt, or the Himalaya salt, contains calcium, potassium, magnesium, and trace amounts of iron, manganese, and zinc. In an animal model of high blood pressure, animals fed a table salt in their diet had kidney damage and blood pressure levels up 25%, much higher than the sea salt diet in animals. And there were no kidney damage in the good, wholesome, healthy salt. There was no side effects or adverse events. So find a good salt, a well-balanced salt with all the minerals. There are many trace elements. That type of salt can actually be used to reestablish your minerals in the body. There are some minerals that need a higher content, and you can add them besides, like magnesium, calcium. You need them in a larger quantity than what the natural salt will contain. But it's a good place to start. So don't go away. We got a lot more coming up. We're going to talk about stress. Do you have stress? Oh, absolutely. I know you might have stress. Are you stressed at work, at home, at whatever you're doing? There's places to have additional stress. We'll talk about that when we come back right here on Terry Talks Nutrition. I'm your host, Terry Naturally. And welcome back, my friends. This is Terry Naturally, back with Terry Talks Nutrition. I'm sure you enjoyed all those commercials. Well, somewhere, sometime, you've got to pay for the time to I'll give you all this information. And we have a lot more coming up, so don't go away. We'll be here to the top of the hour with a lot more tips on health and nutrition. I don't make choices for you. You've got to make your own choices. I'm just kind of steering you to the best choices possible. And that is a low-carb, high-fat diet. Now, that might be very strange to a lot of people. Oh, I thought fat was bad for us. I've been told, my doctor told me, don't eat fat. Everything should be low fat or no fat. And we were given a bad indication in the 1950s and then more severe in 1977 when the government released what they considered to be the nutritional guidelines for Americans in 1977. And it was low fat, high carbs, 6 to 12 servings of bread and grains and cereals. Our diets have been high carb diets. And that just all converts into more sugar than just the sugar. So now avoid sugar, of course, of all forms. But then all the carbohydrates that eventually have to be converted into sugar for it to be metabolized in the body. So you're driving the blood sugar level up high, which triggers more release of insulin. And eventually you have insulin resistance, like the antibiotic resistance. Diabetic, eating high carbs, anyone eating high carbs, eventually will have insulin resistance, insulin sensitivity. And the higher the insulin levels, which actually is a hormone that produces and stores fat in your cells, in your belly, in your body, all around your organs and glands. That's what's killing America. You can change your diet and then get out there and find some way to exercise. A nice long walk, a little jogging. I don't like running so much, but jogging's okay. But you should be able to talk while you jog, meaning that you don't have to really lose your breath. You can still talk while you're jogging. Swimming, biking. But I also think weight resistance is really, really necessary because it builds stronger bones, stronger skeleton, makes your muscles stronger. You can get out of the chair, get off the toilet. There's all kinds of things you can do when your body is strong. But right now we're going to talk about stress. If you're stressed, there are things you can do. Red ginseng has been studied to show that it relieves stress, increases stamina, increases energy levels. This is a double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trial of hydroponic, whole root, red ginseng in 50 healthy adults with stressed, both physically and mentally, demanding office jobs. The subjects of this study completed mental and stress tests in the morning and after a day's work. While taking red ginseng, the subjects or participants had significant improvement in their mental scores, mental focus, and made fewer errors on the mental assessment task and tests. Results were detectable on the very first day of use. Additionally, significant reductions in stress levels were seen by day 5 with red ginseng. The dosage was 200 pounds. That was a flip. 200 milligrams daily of the red ginseng, and no significant adverse effects were reported. Red ginseng is the same as white ginseng. It's the same species, I should say. Panax ginseng. There's the white root. Now, where does the red ginseng come from? They take the white root of ginseng, the species Panax Meyer ginseng, and they steam the ginseng or slightly cook it. And the process of steaming or cooking the white ginseng, it turns red. But that's not the only change, because as you steam it or cook it, you are increasing all the natural ginsenosides, the biologically active components of ginseng, so it has more value, 7 times more value. So look for red ginseng and not the white. The red provides you with much, much more value. Basically, all the ginseng used worldwide is red, because they know from experience that when they steam it or cook it, it changes the components of the ginseng to be much, much more effective, more absorbable, and more powerful. 7 times more powerful. It's a no-brainer. 2 new studies that I just ran across this last week on dementia based on the causes and prevention. Did you ever hear that UTIs are increasing dementia? This is a study from Finland. It's an interesting new study that finds a link between a severe urinary tract infection and later development of dementia. The scientific researchers compared the health data from over 65,000 adults who developed late-life dementia with people of the same age who did not develop dementia. And what they found was that a severe bacterial infection 5 to 6 years earlier, and this bacterial infection was especially more pronounced as a urinary tract infection, which increased the risk of dementia by almost 20%. So the researchers looked for the reason why. And what they found was that the infections triggered inflammation. And the researchers theorized that inflammation caused by the infection either damages the brain or accelerates the decline of a brain already in the earliest stage of dementia. Now, how can we prevent dementia? You know, it's good to treat naturally any kind of a medical disorder, or we try to find a way to not use drugs. Of course, always with our doctor's conversations to determine whether or not that's good for us. But prevention is really a part of cure. And it's already well understood that exercises of all kinds reduces the risk of dementia. In a new study, scientific researchers looked for the reason why. Why is this so? So they used an animal model of Alzheimer's disease. They found that exercise triggers the release of a protein called GLPD1 that strengthens the blood-brain barrier. We have a barrier around our brain, inside our skull, that cannot be penetrated by certain compounds. It's like putting a wall around a city. You keep out the foreign invaders. And the blood-brain barrier also surrounds the brain to protect the brain delicacy, the fragility of the brain, and then strengthens the blood-brain barrier so you have a stronger barrier or wall around the brain that cannot be penetrated by other foreign substances. And this protein in itself doesn't get into the brain, but makes that wall. You've seen castles in Europe. I've toured many castles in Switzerland, in Germany, in France. They build a wall around the city, a wall around the castle, and even have a moat filled with water, so you can't get into the castle. And this protein cannot get into the brain, but makes that wall that protects the brain from danger. Stronger bacteria and inflammation cannot get to the brain when the blood-brain barrier protects it. So we have to build that wall around the brain. If it is penetrated by foreign objects that will affect the brain, we can have side effects. So when older animals were treated with extra amounts of this protein, their mental function test equaled that of much younger animals. So you can make that wall strong and make the brain younger and have less changes in the brain, like loss of memory, forgetfulness, can't think straight, can't focus, loss of the cognitive function. So what does this mean for you and I? To help keep your brain strong and healthy, what do we need to do? We need to protect against bacterial infections of the brain. And a couple of ways we can do that. There are 3 or 4 nutrients that I have researched that proves that it protects the brain and builds that wall stronger. This wall is called the blood-brain barrier. Now, the first one is lactoferrin. Lactoferrin, lactoferrin. It means milk and iron. Lactoferrin. It does not contain iron, but it manages and increases the absorption of iron if it's necessary. It regulates iron absorption. It's a protein from milk that can be used to build that blood-brain barrier and reduce bacterial infection. And propolis. Propolis is a multi-antimicrobial. It means that it kills bacteria, bacterial infection, viral infection, fungal infection. So it's a multi-antimicrobial, kills all the pathogens, and also builds the immune system, but primarily it kills off the bacteria, kills off the viruses, kills off the fungus. And then there's andrographis. which is also antibacterial, antiviral. And then pluron, P-L-E-U-R-A-N, pluron. Pluron is from oyster mushrooms. And all help to keep the immune system strong and have antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal effects. So if you get a UTI, that is a urinary tract infection. Take 500 milligrams of cranberry extract with vitamin C and D mannose. That combination will kill off the bacteria and the virus. They won't allow them to cling to the walls of the bladder or the kidneys. And then exercise your muscles. Resistant training that stresses the muscles triggers the release of the protein that protects the blood-brain barrier. So here's a really good package, a preventative package. Don't wait until you can't think. Start earlier in life. To stay young, you have to start when you're young. You can't get into 80 or 90 and say, oh, I want to be young. There's a lot of work. But if you're in your 30s and 40s and you start working to make yourself young, it's much, much easier. Let's talk a little bit about male infertility. Here are some nutritional factors affecting male infertility or male fertility. Sperm health is measured by count how many sperm are produced. And sperm motility. Can they move and reach an egg for fertilization? Nutritional factors can influence both sperm count and motility. You have to have movement of the sperm. You have to be able to flow upstream, so to speak. Low intake of processed meats. Now that's the kind that they add preservatives, chemicals. This is deli meat. This is something you should not be eating often. One of the major causes of colon cancer. When somebody is eating large quantities of deli ham, or hot dogs, or salami, or bacon. Now, in this case with male fertility, eating a very low intake of processed meats, that means like 1.5 or fewer servings a week of the meats I already mentioned, hot dogs, salami, and bacon, improved fertilization rates by 28%. So get rid of that deli meat. Eat good beef, chicken, salmon, bison, lamb. And then zinc deficiency decreases sperm motility by as much as 50%. And then selenium. Supplementation in selenium deficient men has been shown to increase sperm motility and the quality of the sperm. So the best dosage, 30 milligrams of zinc and 200 micrograms, very small, because you don't want to use a high level of selenium because it can be toxic at a high level. What I suggest here is a good daily dosage. 200 micrograms of selenium daily can address these nutritional deficiencies. Now, this dosage of 30 milligrams of zinc, 200 micrograms of selenium, once or twice daily, would be a really highly beneficial dosage. You know what the number one drug is? The number one drug in America, Still the number one drug and growing. Why is it growing? It's at the top of prescription drugs. For almost a decade, statin drugs have been the most commonly prescribed drug in the U.S., if not around the world. About 100 million prescriptions are written for it every year, and the best estimates of sale dollars for this drug are somewhere around $1 billion a year. The drug companies don't want to give up this. So they're finding ways to gain new population of people by lowering what they call the safe level of cholesterol. It was at 300 annually. Then they dropped it to 240. Now they dropped it to 200. Well, the further you drop it down, the greater increase in population that should be prescribed the drug. And this $1 billion a year, that's just in the U.S. $1 billion. Nobody wants to lose that. The drug companies will do anything. Lie through their teeth. Misguide patients. And the side effects of the statin drug, muscle pain and severe muscle pain. Two kinds of pain. A lot of people will get muscle pain. And if they stop using the drug, the muscle pain will go away. When it's a severe muscle pain, if they stop the drug, the pain will not go away. It's there for life. Digestive issues, fatigue, dizziness, sleep problems, memory, and increased risk of diabetes. I will never, ever, ever think about taking any statin drug. And there are ways to lower cholesterol. If you lower your carbohydrates and sugar, that in turn will help to lower cholesterol. You don't have to worry about it. Cholesterol is what we make all of our hormones from, and also make our vitamin D. The same enzyme system that produces cholesterol in our body also produces CoQ10, which is one of the most critical supplements for the heart. Standard use of statin drugs has been reported to increase the risk of type 2 diabetes by almost 10%. And a newly published study reports that the higher the statin dose, how much are you taking? It causes a greater risk at the higher dose. And for people with already elevated blood sugar levels, statin drugs used actually tips them over the line to diabetes. So if you're not diabetic now, but you're on statin drugs, it won't be long and you'll be also a diabetic. It has so many side effects. But do the drug companies care? No. They have their eye on the 1 billion and more annually. It's amazing. I think it's almost criminal. But that's life. The drug companies don't care. But I also want to call your attention to ultra-processed foods can cause polyps in the colon. 75% of colon cancer starts as a polyp. A polyp is a growth in the intestines. Begins as a harmless clump of cells on the intestinal wall. Over time, these polyps will become cancerous. There's a strong link between harmful bacteria in the intestines, dysbiosis, and the formation of cancerous polyps. A new study shows that women who eat a lot of ultra-processed foods have a 45% increased risk of developing cancerous polyps. how do we prevent the plan? How do we develop a plan to prevent polyp growth? Well, the goal is to be inflammation-free. No inflammation in the intestines. And make sure that it's fully healthy, good bacteria in the intestinal tract and colon. Now the diet, low carbs, very low carbs, no sugar, and real food, natural food. Good proteins, animal proteins, good quality fats. Cream, butter, lard, olive oil. Not ultra-processed foods. And microflora, replenish with probiotics. 20 billion daily of Planetarium, Rhamnosus, and Bifidum. Natural anti-inflammatories like curcumin and boswellia. I'm going to bring this back up next week or so because I'm not going to be able to cover all of what I'd like to cover. I see the clock is running on the wall. So I have to say a prayer for you, my folks. Say a prayer for this crazy world. And God bless you. And God bless this great country. That we bring it back to the way we want it as a Christian country. Thank you, my friends. God bless you.
Thank you for listening to Terry Talks Nutrition Weekly Show. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, including Apple, Google, and iHeartRadio.